During the Victorian era, from 1837 to 1901, men and women's roles played a large part in how society functioned as a whole. The implementation of social spheres in the society of the Victorian era had a huge part in deciding the roles of men and women. The women inhabited the separate private sphere where they had to inherit the traits of femininity, emotion, submission, dependence, and selflessness to fit into their social status. Purity was also an expectation and a necessity in order for motherhood to be truly appreciated. Victorians considered purity a crucial component in an ideal maternity. This means that although mothers were necessarily women of some sexual experience, they were nonetheless often canonized as essentially virgin. In any portrait or picture taken with the mother and her children, if the mother was seen as unfit, she must cover her face in the back so she couldn't be seen. All women grew up with the notion that they must bear children and be a good housemaker. Their main purpose was to please their husbands, despite their needs or wants. They grew up thinking that they were useless otherwise. After a woman married, her rights, property, and identity ceased to exist. By law, she was under complete and total supervision of her husband. Not only did the husband have almost complete control over his wife's body, since beatings and marital rape were legal, their children also belonged to him. On the other hand, in this male-dominated society, men were able to commute to their jobs every day, not having to worry about any domestic duties that were handled by the women at home. In a Victoria-era marriage, it was likely that a husband met with a mistress on the side while he was still married to his wife. Men were able to do this because it was seen to society that it was a man's inherent need to be a sexual creature. Therefore, it was not his fault if he were to go outside of the marriage. If women were to do this, they would be shunned by society and seen as a whore. Not only was adultery committed by the wife seen as unnatural and perverse, women weren't allowed to speak about their sexualities. In fact, masturbation was demonized and seen as a mental disorder. While women were suffering with their sexual frustration and having to feel ashamed of their basic instincts, men, inside or outside marriages, were able to go to prostitutes. It was socially acceptable for men to seek services outside of their marriage with prostitutes because it was said that prostitutes provided a basic service for satisfying men's uncontrollable needs. Because of the widespread belief that women were the means of men's sexual expressions, the Contagious Disease Acts of the 1860s was brought on to decrease the spread of diseases caused by prostitution. Although men and women were both being infected by these sexually transmitted diseases, treatment was only compulsory for women. Although both sexes were affected by the disease outbreak, women were put to blame as per usual because of the notion that women were the acceptable object for male use and abuse. Overall, it is plain to see that in the Victorian-era society, the roles of men and women made it simple to live as a man and extremely unbearable to live as a woman. Men seemingly justified their actions with their supremacy and expected women to tolerate their abuse without demur. The extreme polarization of the roles based on gender resulted in a world ruled solely by male discretion.